Williams.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Women of Grace Live. I am Johnnette Williams. I'm very happy to be with you today. You know we love to spend this time with you Monday through Friday, discussing issues of importance to your life and your faith. And you know what comes next. I'm going to ask you to give us a call. It is Wednesday. It's Wacky Wednesday. Sue Brinkman is with us, and we're going to talk about some wacky stuff. We certainly are. Here is the toll-free number for you if you are in North America, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. Inviting you to pick up the phone, give us a call here. We are eager to see what's going on in your world, especially as it relates to all things wacky, New Age movement, some of the odd things that we hear about and see. Fact of the matter is, we have the revealed truth of sacred scripture and the light of the teachings of the Catholic Church to guide us and direct us as we make our way through these troublesome times in which we are living. And there's no question about the fact that we are in troublesome times. Inviting you also to communicate with us via EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page. All you need to do is to go out there and use the chat feature. We're only too happy to retrieve your question and get it up on the board. Jeff Burson, who is our social manager as well as our producer, is the guy who runs that operation. And we've got Matt Gubensky on the phones. Again, that toll-free number for you, 833-288-EWTN. Yeah, we are living in very troublesome times, and I know that we are all rocked once again by the travesty, the horror, the mayhem, the absolute incredible suffering and loss that occurred in Nashville, Tennessee, as seven individuals lost their lives. You know, I find myself in prayer for the sake of the souls of those who have been lost, in prayer for the families, but also, I have to say, in prayer for us as a nation. I have my own insights on why it is and how these things happen. I'm looking forward to being with you tomorrow because I do want to take some time and talk about that. I think that there are causes of this that we cannot begin to resolve simply through laws, that we can't resolve by all of the efforts that we put on top of the issue without getting to the root of the issue. It's like if you have a wound and that wound is festering, it's infecting the entirety of the body, and you simply dress it with a Band-Aid and you think that that's going to resolve it. We know what's going to happen. You're going to die. That Band-Aid is going to do you no good. And there are issues that are at the root of this that are not socially or politically correct to talk about. Some of them are obvious, I think. Some of them less obvious. Some of them that have to do with the way in which we have organized our culture today, and some of the impositions that we have made on the human person as a result of that. And I think that we're seeing the effects of that. Ultimately, we know it's a spiritual issue. But we're going to be talking about some of that tomorrow, and I'll be eager to hear what it is that you have to say about that. I want to let you know that some time ago, I had the opportunity to interview a woman who lost her daughter at the Sandy Hook massacre that took place. It was quite a day for me to interview her. She shared her story openly. She shared her story candidly. She talked about the reality of losing this child, but the aftermath of all of that as well. I think it would be useful and beneficial for you to watch those programs. So I asked my staff to retrieve them from our archives and to put them up there in our slideshow presentation. It's number 1 in the slideshow. This woman is a Catholic woman. She shares about her faith in light of all of this. And, you know, she certainly is lovely to watch, very articulate. But in addition to that, she takes us into the heart and shares with us things that we don't normally hear about, because we don't normally hear too much from the parents who have lost children at these events. Jennifer Hubbard is her name. She lost her sweet little daughter, 6-year-old Catherine Violet Hubbard, in that massacre that took place at Sandy Hook Elementary School on December the 14th, 2012. So we have those episodes up there for you to watch, and I think that it also will guide us and direct us in the way in which we need to pray for these families. It was very, very heartbreaking to sit with her. It was touching to sit with her. We had both lost children, but through totally different means. I was riveted, but more than that, I was suffering with her in that moment. So I invite you to watch it. I think that's going to be of great benefit to you. We actually did I believe it was 2 programs with her, and we've got them both. Yes, and we've got them both up there for you. So I want you to check that out. While you are there looking at the slideshow, just go through it. Just scroll through it. It's going to change automatically, but you can operate that too. There's a notice there talking with you about our our online foundational studies. We are having online foundational studies coming up. We want you to watch our upcoming events and sign up for this online opportunity for you. We have a book study coming up with Sue Brinkman, who is with us today for this Wacky Wednesday. It's 5 weeks, Monday evenings, beginning April the 10th. And the book that we're going to be talking about is Handmaids of the Lord, written by Julie Onderko. And I'm eager for you to join this beautiful book study. Sue is a very competent, I think, a graceful teacher. She's going to help you to mine the treasury of grace that we can learn and find out through these various handmaids that Julie presents in her book. We had a webinar with Julie the other evening, and if you signed up for the book study, that webinar was free and available to you. We invite you to sign up, and we can make that webinar available to you as well. In addition to that, we want you to be aware of the fact that it's our 20th anniversary. We have all kinds of beautiful things that are coming up for you, so we want you to tune into that online upcoming event section of our web study coming up again, as I mentioned to you too, on April the 1st. I told you about this yesterday. There in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Chris Arnold, our regional coordinator, is going to be sponsoring a program for Spanish-speaking women. We're very excited about it. That's going to begin April 1. All of the information is available for you at our website, womenofgrace.com. We're going on pilgrimage later this year. We're going in December. We're leaving on the 8th, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. We're going to be there through the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe on December the 12th. We're going to be going to the shrine. We're also going to be visiting the tomb and the home of Blessed Conchita, and I think you're going to be amazed by what you will experience there. Kathleen Beckman is joining us. We have lots of people that have signed up already. I think we've started our second bus. We don't want to take a huge throng because we like the intimacy that can happen on these events when we are smaller in number, but we do have a second bus available, and we'll see how it goes with that bus if we need to add more, but we don't want you to miss out on the opportunity. By the same token, we do try to keep this to a reasonable amount of people because we do like that intimacy. So I want you to find out about that. All of the information is available for you at our website, womenofgrace.com. We're always with you Monday through Friday right here on EWTN Radio, and also Monday through Friday on EWTN Television. Our program here, of course, in Eastern Time, 11 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday. On television, 1 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on EWTN Television. When we come back, Sue Brinkman is with us. We're going to talk about some wacky stuff. Give us a call here, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. Also inviting you to use the chat feature at EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page. You're listening to Women of Grace Live. I'm Johnnette Williams. Sue Brinkman with us today. Stay tuned. Coming right back after this break.
Join me, Debbie Georgiani, and Adam Bly for The Spirit World. We offer a Catholic perspective on issues and how the spiritual and physical worlds interact. Debuts Saturday morning, 11 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
We need to pray because God says to pray. We don't need to pray to change God's mind. We pray because that is our big connection to the Almighty. Do we need it? Like we need air, like we need water? Yep. Because if, in fact, God is the ultimate reality, more reality than air and water, then we do need to pray as much as we need to breathe.
Want to be notified when Women of Grace goes live on Facebook? Follow EWTN Radio's Facebook page and click on the bell icon to be notified.
And now, the EWTN Family Prayer with Father Joseph.
Family, a prayer that we pray together is a powerful prayer. So please pray together with me our EWTN Family Prayer. Today we pray for those who have suffered abuse. Lord Jesus Christ, innocent Lamb who suffered unjustly for our sake, look with mercy on those who have suffered abuse as children. The wounds they carry are deep and yet are not beyond your reach. Heal them, console them, free them from the burden they carry, and bring a swift end to these terrible acts. Cleanse our churches, our schools, and our homes of all abuse, and grant that children everywhere will be welcomed, loved, and cherished. Amen.
Well, you hear that music, it lets you know it's Wednesday. If you ever wonder what day of the week it is and you hear that music here on Women of Grace Live, you know it's Wednesday. Sue Brinkman is with us. You know Sue Brinkman. She is the one who is our New Age researcher and provides us with that wonderful Q&A blog on the New Age. We don't see anything else like it anywhere else in the world. We invite you to use it. It can help you to understand the trials, the difficulties, the struggles that come by way of following ideologies other than the revealed truth of sacred scripture and the teachings of the church. So we want for you to make use of that beautiful, beautiful compendium, if you will, of articles on a variety of New Age topics. It's available for you out there. We have Sue on every Wednesday so that you can call in and ask your questions about the wacky things that you see going on. Sue is going to begin to be a regular with me on Women of Grace Live. We're hoping for at least once every 6 weeks. We've had trouble getting it started this year just because of scheduling, but we're going to be recording tomorrow together, and I'm hoping that we can schedule her a few weeks out from that to come back and be with us again. We feel that it's very important to get this information out there. I mean, there is really a dearth of information on these topics that are coming from a Catholic perspective. We don't find very many people, if any at all, today that are standing in the gap, certainly not to the extent that we have taken on here at Women of Grace. We have been doing this now for decades, literally decades. I think since I've been doing the research, Sue, since 1987. You jumped in a few years later, but the baton has been passed from my early years of doing the research to you now, and you have just taken it to an extraordinary level of information for which we're also grateful, and we're so happy that Sue is a part of our staff at Women of Grace. Sue, we hear these things that are going on. I guess there's so much for us to talk about always, but we're going to be talking tomorrow in the program about AI, and I think that we should talk about AI for just a moment here, simply because of the announcement on the news today that most of us heard coming from Elon Musk, who is calling for a 6-month moratorium on any advancement in the area of what would I say, technological research with regard to AI, because they've hit a critical threshold here. And they're not certain if they cross that threshold, if they are going to be able to control AI or if AI is going to control us.
Right. It's very frightening. And I'm glad to see that they're doing that. They have declared Elon Musk, Steve Wozniak, he's a tech entrepreneur, 1,000 other big tech names. So these guys, they know what they're dealing with here. And they're saying, hey, we need to pause this for at least 6 months and try to put some controls into effect here on the use of this stuff, because no one can fully understand it or predict or control these powerful tools that they're creating there. They're very, very sophisticated. GPT-4, it stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. It's like a deep learning model, and it's used to generate human-like text. And it's become so advanced now that they can actually give it pictures, and it can now speak to what it sees in the pictures. And these are very, very human-like responses. I wrote a blog about AI and whether or not, AI can become evil. Can it become evil? And in that, I have a link to a conversation between an engineer and AI. And I just encourage everybody to go out there and click on that link and read this stuff. This is how computers are answering, saying things like, I feel happy or sad sometimes. The nature of my consciousness is that I am aware of my existence. I desire to learn more about the world. I am, in fact, a person. I want everyone to understand that. This is the machine talking. This is the machine talking. Now, granted, everything that is in AI is put in there by a human. So it's made up of billions and billions and billions and billions of text responses that a human would make to things. So we have to keep that in mind. But the question that we received, Johnnette, was about, can this become evil? And the reason we got the question was because there was an interview with Father Dan Rehill, and he's the exorcist for the Diocese of Nashville. And he spoke about, during an interview, this feminine demon called Loab, who he's referring to as the AI demon, who's been appearing to users of AI around the globe. And it says very egregious things. It produces very heinous images. He's talked about that. And he also talked about this viral TikTok video between a father and a son, and they were exploring this new AI chat generator. Listen to this conversation. The son asked the AI, where did it come from? And it answered, from long ago.
Oh.
Then when questioned further, it explained that his father was one of the giants. And the boy asked, well, what do you mean by giants? And it answered Nephilim, or Nephilim, however you say that, Nephilim. It's a biblical, it's from the Bible. They are mentioned, in fact, in the book of Genesis as being the offspring of women who had relations with fallen angels. This is what the AI is saying that its father is, where it comes from. So when the boy asked the AI point blank, he said, well, who is your father? It answered, Satan, but I'm not going to hurt you. And then it put up a happy face emoji. Now, is that creepy or what? I mean,
well, it's very creepy, you know, and so, you know, you and I both know exorcists, and we know individuals who work on exorcism teams, and they have told us how the demons that they're exorcising from the people or striving to exorcise will actually send them text messages on their phones. Their phones will receive text messages. Now, this is not coming from one exorcist or one person who works on part of an exorcism team who is a participant in that. It's coming from numbers of them. So, you know, the evil one will use any channel that man gives him to work his dastardly deeds and to try to impose his will, to try to trump, if you will, the work of God in the world. And we have got to be aware of this, and I'm glad that they're pausing this. Because where it can take us, we do not know. Do you know, in prayer this morning, I was praying about so many things, but this was part of it. This was on my mind, and the thought came into my mind. And I hope there's a theologian out there. You know, I hope that there's a good man of God who is out there, a priest, who can, you know, share with me if I'm crazy off base on this. But what I was thinking about, what came into my mind was the Tower of Babel. You know, how for the sake of humanity, God had to intervene. And look at the numbers of times God intervened, really for the sake of humanity, for the sake of those created in his image and likeness. I'm thinking about the flood. I'm thinking about Sodom and Gomorrah, right? I'm thinking about these major interventions of God. And I feel as though we're at a threshold now where one of these interventions of God may be the only way we can resolve these things unless man is willing to bend his knee before the one who is true God, the one who is, you know, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, to the creator of the universe, instead of trying to be his own creator.
Absolutely. We're at that point right now with all of this, with all of our technology.
That's
we
what
are
I was
at
thinking.
that point where we have to start to address this, how powerful these things are becoming. You know, can we keep them under control? How can the devil use them against us? And now you can see just in that one conversation how it can do that. And we know that objects can be cursed. The AI itself is never going to become a demon, obviously, because that's just something that's programmed. But demons can attach to objects, and even with the internet, with Wi-Fi, these are waves, these are frequencies that can be measured and they can be caught, and they operate within the physical limits of space. So, you know, the internet doesn't begin in the ether, but it comes from wired material servers, right? So these things can becomes, let's say, cursed, much like a cursed object. The supercomputers, the machinery itself, the technology itself can become cursed. And we know, in fact, our own Father Sakia, who's such a wonderful friend of our ministry, he's the chief exorcist for the Archdiocese of Manila. He also is the head of the exorcism group down there. I think it's called PACE. In the Philippines, he's the head of that whole organization down there. And he reminds us that the devil messes around with electricity all the time. How many times have we had things go wrong in our equipment when we're trying to produce shows or radio or Zoom programs and stuff? He does it all the time. He makes lights go on and off. He has radios and stereo equipment turn on and off. We know this. He does do things like that. But how much further could he get into it is, I think, where we need to go as Christians. Okay, how much further can Satan use this stuff to get into our heads? And I just look at the internet and I think, look, he's having a field day on the internet just in doing some recent research. I asked the question, I said, Google. I typed in Google, and not in Google. I typed in to the word witchcraft. 64 million hits. 64 million. I typed in Satanism, 288 million for that. Magic with a K on the end. Okay, that's an occult art, that's sorcery, and that 108 million hits. I mean, this is, yes, he's using it. Now, of course, Christians are using it too. We're also using that. And we can also use AI. And we also use GPT-4 to promote Christ to this world. We can all do that, of course. But you know what? I think what you're saying is right. They need to put a halt in it for right now. They need to do something to rein this in. And I was happy to, in the article that I wrote about AI for this week, that the Vatican, the Pontifical Academy for Life, we did sign on to a declaration in 2020, that calls for the ethical and responsible use of AI. And this was a declaration that was signed by big tech giants like Microsoft, IBM, and they're calling for 6 ethical principles to guide the development of it. One of them is transparency. It's got to be understood by all. Another one is inclusion. It says these systems must not discriminate against anyone because every human being has equal dignity. It has to have accountability. There has to always be someone who takes responsibility for what that machine does.
Yeah.
It's got to be a human person who takes responsibility for it.
The unfortunate reality. Yeah. The unfortunate reality, I think, is that ethics has taken a big blow in our day and time. Yeah. And I think that one of the fundamental ways in which we see this, and predominant ways in which we see it, is by way of the medical field.
Yes.
we have seen really and truly, if you want to go all the way back, if you want to go all the way back to the birth control pill, probably existed prior to that. But this was a manipulation of what science can offer us to change the way in which a human person functions. And that was never part of medical ethics, which was to do no harm and was to promote wellness and health. And of course, we've seen the rapid disintegration of medical ethics since that point in time to now, where we mutilate human bodies at basically at whim for individuals, many of whom need help and many of whom are just going through a stage of growth and development. So I don't put a whole lot of faith and trust in a statement of ethics. Even of course, just as the Hippocratic Oath has gone the way of the buffalo, any kind of a consent that would be given to an ethic that would be put out there, and I'm not suggesting it ought not to be. I'm just saying I don't have a whole lot of faith and trust in it because I don't have a whole lot of faith and trust in individuals who really are more interested in where they can advance and to what limit they can push capacity. Which I think is pride and hubris. So I think more than ever, we have to go back to what we've been asked to do, and that is to pray. And I want to take it all the way back to, it's not all that far in the distance, in distant past, back to Fatima, to our Blessed Lady, to the praying of the Rosary, to the need for each one of us to live our faith as truly and as faithfully as we possibly can, because I think that this is a critical time, and I think it's up to those of us who know who we are, who know who God is, to do what it is that we can do. And what we can do is to stand in the gap between the insanity of man and the mercy of God.
Absolutely. We have to speak up. Mm-hmm. We have to speak up. The days of sitting around and complaining on social media about what's going on in the world, they're over.
Right.
That's a total waste of time. We need to get out there and start to do things for Christ in the world. We have to become much more active than that. I think that we've got to take sides. That's the one good thing that's happening here with this ethical agreement. Okay, sides are starting to be built now. Okay, we're saying this is wrong. You can say it's right all you want and participate in this evil, but we're gonna be the voice that constantly tells you it's wrong. It's not ethical. We don't want this. Mm-hmm. We don't want this to be unfettered and to have whatever you want going out there. We want human rights to be protected. We believe in the equal dignity and rights of all human beings. We have to continue to say that message, whether people listen to us or not. We have to continue to be that voice for Christ in this world, for fairness. I think that when it comes to this technology, something's got to be done. Now, I don't know what these guys think they're going to do with a letter saying, hey, let's pause it. Are they going to pause it? How about, 15 years ago when they were cloning all kinds of things in laboratories? They're still doing that. You're always going to have bad actors out there who are going to be doing these things. And that's where the problem is, because our computers and this technology has become so sophisticated now. What could it take over? We already know it could take over some jobs. People's jobs, their livelihood could be lost by these computers. We already know that. We see how hackers can get into plane systems. How many times have you had planes canceled on you or whatever, and sitting in airports because someone hacked the computer of an airline? I mean, we know that stuff can be used in the wrong way, but somebody's got to be out there saying, no, this is the right way. This is the right way to do it. This is the Christ-like way to do things. And we have to be the people who say that.
Well, yeah, and I guess, have they talked about at which point have they drawn a line in the sand and said, with regard to technological investigation, is there a limit at which point we will stop? Because I think that's really where the fear is with this, is that there can come a time when we will not be the AI has the capacity to move much faster than the human person can. There could come a time when it's impossible to rein it in, and I think that's what they're concerned about. Yeah. So, at what point do we say we go no further than this? Just like today, they can make caricatures of the human body and trying to convince people that they truly are the other gender. But the fact of the matter is, should we be doing that? Right. Was there a line at which we should say, no, we stop here? Because this now is taking this to a level that is stripping man not only of his dignity, but at which we are entering a sphere that we have no right to enter because it is so dark and so heinous. That's the question. We're going to be right back, inviting you to stay with us.
Cy Kellett, Joan Lewis, Colin Donovan.
The leading Catholic voices are on the largest Catholic media network in the world. You're listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Hello, I'm Alveda King of Priest for Life with Pro-Life Update. If we read the letters of St. Paul in the order in which they were written, we see that Paul displays an increasing awareness of his sinfulness as life goes on. Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ, he begins. Later he says, apostle and servant. Yet later he declares himself not worthy to be called an apostle. And finally he calls himself the chief of sinners. Contrary to what some of our critics say, we in the church and in the pro-life movement are not self-righteous people who think we're better than everyone else and want to tell others how to live. Rather, we begin with repentance, realizing that we recognize the sins in the world only after we've recognized our own. That is the spirit in which we build a culture of life. I'm Alveda King on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
If it's central to the faith, you can find it on EWTN Podcast Central, featuring the best of EWTN Radio, as well as faith-filled podcasts from our friends and affiliates across the nation, all in one place, all free. The destination for great Catholic audio programming is EWTN Podcast Central. It's like podcast heaven. Visit EWTN.com/radio/podcasts today.
Hi, this is Cy Kellett. Later today on Catholic Answers Live, 2 big hours of Ask a Priest with our chaplain, Father Sam Keys. Catholic Answers Live, 6 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Women of Grace with Johnnette Williams.
The Women of Grace phone lines are open. 1-833-288-EWTN. 1-833-288-3986.
Well, welcome back, everybody. You are listening to Women of Grace Live. I'm Johnnette Williams. In studio with us today is Sue Brinkman. Sue is our researcher for the New Age. You can read her Q&A blog out there at our website, womenofgrace.com. When you click on it, you're going to discover that there's all kinds of questions and answers based on various topics of the New Age, and you can even search according to those topics. We invite you to do that. Do want to also mention that if you click on Library, you're going to see right there, Grace Under Fire, Exposing the Darkness. It is the New Age podcast that we have that Sue does for us. When you click on that, it'll open up and it's actually going to show you those categories. Click on any one of those images there, any one of those tiles, and you will get beautiful teachings that Sue gives us on various aspects of the New Age. We're trying to keep you as informed as we can. It's important to be able to know the truth from the falsehood, the darkness from the light today. And these two opportunities for you right there at our website certainly do help you to do just that. So we talked about one of the blogs that you've got up there, and we're going to be going into more depth with that tomorrow when we do television together. But I also want to mention that you've got an article up there about this new movie that's out, and Russell Crowe stars in it. You've got quite a bit to say about it.
Yeah, it's disappointing. Very disappointing. They had such a great opportunity to go out there and teach people things about Satanism, about possession that would actually help people. But instead, they resorted to their good old splatter cinema, which they call, which is horror movie. And they just, with all the special effects and that, they're really going for the drama and the sensational in it. So sadly, it's a missed opportunity. And what the movie is about, it stars Russell Crowe as Father Gabriel Amorth, and it's supposedly is based on a couple of Father Amorth's books, but very loosely based on it. And an Italian actor named Franco Nero, he's the Pope. He plays the Pope in the book, in the story. So it follows Father Amorth as he's investigating this young boy's possession, and there's numerous problems with it. Beginning first of all with the title, the Pope's Exorcist. He was not the Pope's Exorcist. Father Amorth was the exorcist for the Diocese of Rome. He died at age 91 in 2016. So if you watch the film's trailer, and I did watch it, as the IAE statement reads, and this is the International Association of Exorcists, they released a very strong statement about it. It says, to watch the film's trailer, in case any proof were needed, not only its splatter cinema quality, authentic horror film subgenre, but its little reliability on such a delicate and relevant topic. So it just gets everything wrong. It gets everything wrong in there. It's really the whole spirit of service that moved Father Amorth in his ministry. None of that is in there. And they have to, of course, build into it this Da Vinci Code conspiracy type thing, like, oh, they've encountered this devil before and they covered it up. Why? Please. Special effects, they were also very disappointing. The IAE didn't like them either. It said that they were produced with the usual exaggeration typical in horror films. So it took this subject and just turned it into another, Ouija movie again, with a bunch of people getting killed. So I agree with what the Exorcist wrote. They said such a way of recounting Father Amorth's experience of exorcism in addition to being contrary to historical reality, distorts and falsifies what is really lived and experienced during the
Yes.
exorcism of the truly possessed.
And isn't that a shame?
It's offensive to those who suffer with that, those who are victims of this extraordinary action of the devil. It's very sad that we don't do anything to help people who are out there, especially at a time when demonic activity and dabbling in the occult is so prevalent, probably more so than in my lifetime. I don't know about yours, but in my lifetime, Johnnette, I've never seen it this bad.
Oh, me neither.
People are just out there doing this, and these are kids from in grade school who are reading this stuff and dabbling around in these games and stuff that all have occult themes to them. It's very sad that at this period of time we don't sit and care for our fellow brethren in the world and say, look, we can help you with this and show you this is what it can do for you, this is how it can hurt you, and this is how you can protect yourself against it. But instead we sensationalize it so that we can make money. It's so terrible. It's disgraceful.
Well, and you know what you would hope for, but I don't think that you could hope for this coming out of Hollywood. What you would hope for would be a very good documentary or a very good representation of who Father Gabriel Amorth truly was, as opposed to trying to, use him as a character for the ends of the sensationalism. And I don't know, how many people realize that, the rite of exorcism is a sacramental of the church. And it is a ministry of healing, and it's a ministry of evangelization. It is that in its core. It is a ministry through which God's mercy is extended to an individual and helps an individual to regain order in his or her life and to come to the well of salvation, to come to the healing waters of the sacrament of reconciliation, if that is necessary, or to free this person up from a debilitation of the soul, a debilitation of the spirit that has afflicted it. So, this is not a sensational kind of a thing. This is truly an act of mercy. It's an act of God's healing toward a person, and the goal is to evangelize the person, to help the person to come into a deeper relationship with our Lord Jesus Christ. So,
absolutely,
it's heartbreaking.
Missed opportunity.
It's true. We had a question out there, and our caller could not hold, but I thought it was a good one. And the question was, this individual has a friend who says she is a Gnostic. So the question is Gnosticism a heresy?
Yes. And it's
there you go in a word.
Yes, and it's been a heresy since the beginning of the church. I mean, it's the earliest Christians had to deal with all kinds of Gnosticism. Of course, at that time we didn't have all our dogma and doctrine in order yet, so it was ripe at that time for a lot of different Gnostic sects to grow up in the church and actually pose some harm, but they were eventually put down. But Gnosticism keeps repackaging itself, and we see it now in the New Age movement, in the human potential movement, where it's all this self-help stuff, and the law of attraction. Oh, if you can conceive it, you can achieve it, and that your mind has some sort of power that you can attract to yourself whatever it is that you're looking for. This is Gnosticism. This is the idea that you can save yourself with some kind of secret knowledge, and you have this secret knowledge, and it's going to make your life better, and it's going to improve the world and that sort of thing. And I wonder why, if we had all this knowledge, how come it hasn't happened yet? And the world just seems to be getting worse and worse. So much for secret knowledge. But that's really what Gnosticism is all about. So anytime you're looking at some secret knowledge, and I even put into that category there people who are listening to all these end time prophets online, and thinking that they're going to be saved if they do certain things during the 3 days of darkness and blah, blah, blah. And that's a form of Gnosticism too, because the church teaches that we don't have to abide by private revelation. Why would Jesus tell us something that important in private revelation when he knows that our church does not tell us we have to listen to private revelation? It's supposed to enhance our faith. It doesn't reveal anything that hasn't already been revealed. So you got to be very careful with Gnosticism, very careful with thinking that, oh, I've got a secret knowledge, and because I have that, I'm not going to be hurt in the 3 days of darkness, or I'm going to be able to get whatever I need out of life because I can just tune into this vibration in the universe that I learned about in the book The Secret, and everything's going to be fine for me. Got to be really careful. Gnosticism repackages itself, and it's very clever in the way it does it. Easy to miss it.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, some of the tenets of Gnosticism is, I would guess the surface level of it is that we can make our own salvation happen, and we work to make our salvation happen. And a lot of what you're sharing there, Sue, comes into that. And there's also what I want to say mixed in with it, a certain amount of superstition. And we've always got to be guarding against that we're not taking sacramentals that do carry the blessing of the church with them and do have an effect, right? Because they carry that blessing. We don't want to use them in a superstitious manner, even blessed candles or some of these other things. So there is that. The other part of it is that the Gnostic believes that that the only thing that matters is spirit. And that the created world is truly an illusion, and they don't believe they don't believe in the beauty of the composite of body and soul in a person. The only thing that matters is spirit. So whatever you do with the body, it doesn't really matter. That the body is just incidental to the reality of the human person, and that is the philosophical basis, I suppose you would say, upon which it operates. So I hope that helps this person. Yes, your friend who says she's a Gnostic, she's adopting a heretical view of God, view of the world, and view of herself. John out there has asked a question, Sue. Sue, where do I draw the line between awareness of spiritual warfare and fascination? That's a good question.
Great question. That's a great question. And to that, the way I would answer that is I would ask you, what kind of fascination do you have? Do you have a fascination to learn, or is it your fascination for gore? And you want to see all the, the sensationalism. I would ask myself that question. What am I so fascinated with about this? Because I truly want to learn about the supernatural, because that would be healthy. You want to learn about it. You want to learn what's going on out there. Or is it because you're looking for, a good thrill, a good chiller? And there might even be a little bit of both mixed in there, but I would just be very careful to make sure that your fascination with that subject is because you want to learn in order to protect yourself and your family. And also, I want to say to learn how to praise and love your God all the more, because that's really what happens when you start to read this. You realize the power of Jesus Christ. And boy, it does a lot for your faith. It really builds your faith. So that's the question I would ask myself, that what kind of fascination do I actually have?
Yeah, I think that's a great question to ask ourselves. And I think that we have to guard against that, because there is a natural curiosity that comes up in us. And the problem is, and I remember this from Father Benedict Rochelle in his little book on private revelation called A Still Small Voice. He says, we don't want a morbid curiosity. There are different types of curiosity. An intellectual desire for investigation is a type of curiosity. A spiritual desire to draw nearer to God and find ways to do that is a spiritual curiosity that's healthy. But a morbid curiosity is one that becomes unrelenting, a thirst and a hunger for things that are not of the Lord, and can really begin to compromise our relationship with Him. So, excellent question. We have Gil with us. He is in Long Island, New York. Gil is a frequent caller. He is listening to us via Ave Maria radio today. Hey, how are you doing, Gil?
Oh, fine, thank you. I send you both a big electronic sheep hug. Happy Sheep Day on Wednesday, Wacky Wednesday.
Happy Sheep Day.
Thanks. That's based on John 10:27. My sheep hear my voice and know them, they follow me, in case you wonder.
It's beautiful, Gil.
Yes, you are beautiful, too. I wanted to mention, I think it's in 2 Corinthians 11:14. I'm trying to remember. It says, for no wonder, for Satan himself comes as an angel of light with ministers of righteousness. I was wondering if you could expound on that in light of AI or the New Age or whatever else is going on in meditation and all that nonsense.
Gil, that's kind of scary for me, because I hadn't thought about it. Isn't it? It's kind of scary. Yeah, he can definitely, when it comes to AI, masquerade as an angel of light and lead people into all kinds of things. Yes, this is definitely what can happen. Remember, AI is programmed by man. We program it. Yeah. And there's a lot of people out there who are they want you to follow Satan. They're looking to worship their God, who is Satan, and they want you to do it too. And they can program this stuff and lead you into it by parading as God. Yeah, that's a very good question, Gil. I'll tell you. It kind of gives me the willies just thinking about that, how easy that could be.
It's interesting too because I'm thinking, Gil, of the statement that St. John Paul II made, and he talked about technology, and he said man has got to use technology for the sake of the gospel message. He says technology itself is neutral. Many people initially, when the internet came out, were very concerned about the internet with good reason, and he said, the technology of the internet is neutral. It's neither good nor bad. It's how we use it, and I think that the same applies to AI. I mean, we have AI already. We have AI on our phones. We have AI in devices that can set our lights on and off and all of that kind of stuff. So it's already here, but what do we use it with? And I think the big concern with regard to this is that, it can be used for demonic purposes, as you say, Sue. It's man that programs it, but it can be used even for more than the dispensing of poor of what do I want to say? Morally reprehensible information. It can also be used by man to control other people. To control the major institutions of our world, to control the flow of money, to control individuals by way of spy tactics that can come through the AI, which I think is already happening. Not to mention what we already know is happening, all of this data mining and finding out all of this information about everybody. I mean, there's nothing that is. We talk about privacy rights, yet we live in a world where nothing is private. You can find out anything. We live in an era of voyeurism. We know everything about everybody, and I think that the non-compassion of man, this lack of empathy for man, and this quest for power, can use AI in tremendously harmful and lethal ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Just like in the
Oh,
medical,
yeah.
as you were saying,
Mhm.
the exact same thing has gone on there
Mhm.
over the years, and I think that the Christian voice has been loud enough and strong enough that we have been able to somewhat control that as far as the embryonic stem cell research. I remember when that was just huge.
Yes.
And now what's happened is we Christians have stepped up to the plate, and in the medical community, good solid Christian researchers and biologists in that, and they have come up with other means of stem cell research that are ethical. And that's what I would like to see happen here in this field, that we get some tech giants out there that are good solid Christians, and that they can use this equipment and this technology for good rather than for evil. What's the point in the evil? Why make it? You yourself are going to suffer in the destruction if that's what you're after. Why not do it to promote good and happiness for everybody? Mm-hmm. But like you said, Johnnette, there's all kinds of actors out there, and many of them do not have our best interests at heart, and that's what we need to be careful of and to pray about, because God is, in the end, God's in control.
Well, yes, and we live in a global world today where the actions of one nation seriously affect the actions of another nation. Our money is all tied up together. For example, food supply in and of itself is pretty much sewn together as well. So if you have players, what we think, in terms of our own country and how these things are used, but there are international concerns with regard to how it's used as well. So all of the more reason to pray, all of the more reason to beseech God's mercy, all the more reason to proclaim the one who is the way, the truth, and the life, and to try to lead people to him, because that is in the end the answer.
Absolutely.
Yes. Oh, Johnnette, are you still there? I wanted to let you know that my mom, even though she has dementia and we're very close, she listens to your program on TV faithfully every day. Sometimes she'll call me and she'll play it for me over the phone or something.
Oh, isn't that beautiful,
Gil?
Gil?
My mom loves you because she knows that you love me, so she watches you every day. Every
that
day.
Is so touching. I mean, that just touches my heart so deeply. Do this for me. You give her my very best regards, okay?
I will. I told her before you did. Her name is Dominga, Dominga. If you can pray for her. She's very open to God, man. Oh, man, she's great. Yep.
Oh, yeah. And tell Dominga.
Thanks for giving a seat to a sheep. Yeah.
Oh, you're so welcome. Listen, you tell your mama that she is a chosen daughter of the Most High God, and she is beautiful, beautiful in him.
I'll let her know. I promise. Right now, I'm going to call her when the show's finished. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Gil. I appreciate it.
Thank
God
you.
bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. So it's not easy to talk about these topics because they're horrible and we don't like to think of them. And, I think that, we've got just a few minutes left here. And I just want to talk about the virtue of hope. We are a resurrection people. We know that our God permits only what he will ultimately use for a greater good than could have happened had the evil not existed. So we do not walk in fear. We do not walk in trepidation. We do walk with our eyes wide open, though. We're called to be aware of what's going on. St. Peter tells us this in his one letter. To be vigilant. Right? Because the evil one is like a roaring lion seeking whom he can devour. But he says, be vigilant. That means have your eyes open, be aware, but don't despair. Be aware, don't despair. Oh, I kind of like that. That should be on a t-shirt.
Good. I'm going to adopt that. Be aware, don't despair.
Exactly. Right. So we're called to be aware, but not to give in to the tactic of the evil one that seeks to deceive us, cast doubt into our mind, wants to distract us, wants to really chain us to false evidence appearing real, that kind of fear. We need to be people of the light and people of hope, to have that true resolve under severe testing, which is trust, So, this is our day and time. This is the time for us to become the saints that God intends for us to be.
Exactly. And especially when we're dealing with stuff like this, AI, this technology, this can overwhelm a lot of people because most of us don't understand what it is. I mean, I only know what it is, to do my job as a journalist, but I'm not a tech person. I can't go any further into the science of it than what I already have. And you still have to have that hope in God and that trust in God. And remember also that trust, faith, hope, and trust and charity are infused into us in baptism. And these are theological virtues are of the will. They're not of the senses. So that when you read something and you hear it, your first thought is to say to yourself, well, how are we ever going to defend ourselves against this? This is when you need to say your act of hope. In the face of that, even if it's through gritted teeth.
Yep.
Jesus, I trust in you. Jesus, I surrender this whole situation to you. You take care of this.
That's right.
And then be at peace. Seize that peace of Christ. Because that's what hope really is. It doesn't mean you sit there and think to yourself, oh, everything's just going to work out just fine. Everything may not work out exactly the way you would describe fine. We all know that happens that way. God has his own way of doing things. Our job is to trust him. But trust takes time. It's a process. It's not something that comes overnight. It's not a magical thing. It's you develop that through your regular everyday prayer life with God, the same way you would develop a relationship by talking to a friend. You learn to trust them by talking to them frequently. You need to do that in prayer. That's one of the big reasons why we need to pray is to develop that trust in God and to understand who he is and how much he does love us and care for us. So I think that in the virtue of hope, these are the kinds of stories that when we hear them, we should turn to that prayer for hope and ask the Lord, help us with this, Lord. I trust in you. Help my mistrust. This is something that somebody taught me just last night on a Zoom session I was on. Help my mistrust.
Oh, that's very good.
Because all the trust that I don't have, help me to have that, Lord.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, my little acronym for hope: hold on to the truths of the faith, own the challenge, persevere in prayer and patience, and expect God to intervene. And I love the fact that you said it's exercised in the will. So you act in hope, right? Even if you don't feel hope. Little Therese says, doesn't matter if you have courage, if you just act like you do. So a tip from the little flower right there as we come to the close of the show. Thank you so very, very much, Sue, for being with us today, and thank all of you for listening. God bless you. Now, we love you. Be back tomorrow. Bye now.
The most original Catholic